Hi everyone, so glad to have you with us here at Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham coming to you live from our studios here in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the U.S. and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest global headlines. Washington and Tokyo hold joint exercises over the Sea of Japan just 2 days after Chinese and Russian planes also conducted patrols. Cryptocurrencies tumble, with Bitcoin dropping below the $90,000 mark again, and a fresh sign of market jitters as revived concerns over AI profits weigh heavily on technology stocks. Nobel Peace Laureate Maria Corina Machado says she'll do her best to return to Venezuela to end the tyranny in the country as she stepped out into the spotlight in Oslo after nearly a year in hiding. Widespread disruption hits Portuguese air travel, trains, hospitals, and schools as unions launch the biggest nationwide strike in more than a decade, protesting government labor reforms. And air quality in Vietnam's capital drops to among the world's worst as toxic smog blankets the city for over a week, prompting authorities to urge industrial plants to scale back operations. We begin in Washington, where a major move by the U.S. Federal Reserve took place. For the third time this year, America's central bank has cut interest rates. But behind the headline lies a story of deep disagreements, rising pressure, and a difficult path ahead for the world's largest economy. The U.S. Federal Reserve lowered its key lending rate by a quarter percentage point, bringing it to a range of 3.5% to 3.75%. The lowest level in 3 years. This rate cut dictates loans affecting everything from home loans to credit card bills. And the goal of lowering the rate is simple: make borrowing cheaper, encourage spending, and support jobs. But the decision wasn't smooth. For the first time in months, 3 Fed officials openly disagreed with the rate cut, featuring a range of dissenting views and opinions. Fed Chair Jerome Powell admitted the central bank is in a very challenging situation.
The situation is that our two goals are a bit in tension, right? So, interestingly, everyone around the table at the FOMC agrees that inflation is too high and that we want it to come down, and agrees that the labor market has softened and that there's further risk. Everyone agrees on that. Where the difference is how do you weight those risks? And what does your forecast look like? And where do you, ultimately, where do you think the bigger risk is?
The Fed chair also blamed President Donald Trump's tariffs for high inflation in the country.
If you get away from tariffs, inflation is in the low 2s, right? So it's really tariffs that's causing most of the inflation overshoot. And we do think of those as likely to, in the current situation, as likely to be a one-time price increase. Our job is to make sure that it is, and we will do that job. But right now, you've got this difficult balance, and there are risks to both sides. There's no risk-free path.
The Fed's latest projections suggest only one possible rate cut next year, and even that could change if new data shows a shift in the economy. Now, the decision will come at the Fed's January meeting in 2026, but those hoping for aggressive rate cuts, especially President Donald Trump himself, who's been aggressively pushing for them, may have to wait. Even after another rate cut, the president still, however, expressed disappointment.
But we should be able to do a lot better than 3 and 4. We're scheduled to be at 4%, which is pretty amazing because we have a deadhead Fed hair. I mean, this guy, the head of the Federal Reserve is a stiff. And, you fight that. It's amazing. We fight that, and yet interest rates are going down, except with him, not too much. He did a rather, I would say, a rather small number that could have been doubled, at least doubled.
But now global markets responded instantly to the decision. In the U.S., both the Dow Jones and S&P 500 slid during pre-market trading. European markets, however, were still unsteady during early trading, with London and France trading in the green, while Frankfurt was mostly flat and stayed the same throughout early trading. In Asia, most markets were trading in the red. Hong Kong, Seoul, Japan, and Shanghai all closed lower. But India's indices bucked the trend, logging gains throughout the day. And analysts say the drops were led by lower expectations for further rate cuts in 2026, as well as Oracle's disappointing earnings. Also adding that the rate cut wasn't in fact needed because the job market hasn't fallen completely apart.
So the job market is not falling apart. The JOLTS numbers, the available jobs actually went up. The employment cost index indicates that people are getting paid, and we've had really robust retail sales. So I can make an argument there wasn't a need for a cut, but many will tell you that they're trying to normalize the yield curve and really help banks, particularly smaller banks and small businesses.
Now, this rate cut comes at a very tricky time. A long U.S. government shutdown created a data blackout, leaving officials with less information than usual. Nevertheless, inflation continued to hover well above the Fed's 2.2% target. And the Fed also delivered 3 cuts this year, but deeper divisions inside the institution are making future moves far more unpredictable. For now, Americans and global markets will have to wait toward January to see what in fact happens next. And now to the latest in South America, where U.S. forces have seized a massive oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, sharply escalating tensions with the Latin American nation. President Trump confirmed the operation, calling it the largest tanker ever seized, and said the U.S. would likely keep the oil, of course.
Probably know we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people.
The vessel, identified as the skipper, was targeted for allegedly transporting sanctioned crude from Venezuela to Iran. And Attorney General Pam Bondi released a video showing troops descending from helicopters onto the ship. She said the tanker had long been part of an illicit network that funneled money to groups such as Hezbollah and Iran's Quds Force. The FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Coast Guard, and the Pentagon jointly carried out the operation. Venezuela condemned the seizure as international piracy, with top officials accusing Washington of trying to steal the country's natural resources. Maduro, speaking at a rally, urged Venezuelans to stand ready to defend the nation and mocked U.S. pressure by singing, "Don't worry, be happy."
A los ciudadanos estadounidenses que están contra la guerra, les contesto una canción muy famosa. Don't worry, be happy. La 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 la. Don't worry, be happy. La 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 la. Just peace, not war. Peace and love.
What they want is to steal our oil, to steal it, to steal our gold. They want to steal our gas. They want to steal our water because they don't want to pay. And why don't they pay for it? Because they are thieves. They are accustomed to that.
Now, the incident comes as the U.S. expands its military presence in the Caribbean. U.S. fighter jets are continually flying unusually close to Venezuelan airspace, and President Donald Trump said after the seizure himself, Maduro's days are numbered. Moreover, since September, the U.S. has conducted more than 20 deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the region, killing at least 80 people. And now tensions are rising inside Venezuela. Maduro's primary opposition, Maria Corina Machado, who was just awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for championing democratic rights inside the country, appeared in Oslo after 11 months in hiding, saying she will return to Venezuela at the correct moment. Machado went into hiding after criticizing Maduro's policies and even missed the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony.
It's an individual decision, a rational decision. And it's the sum of these individual conscious decisions that bring that collective ethos that creates the force, the strength, and the courage to fight for freedom, to defend it when you got it. That's why I am convinced that peace ultimately is an act of love.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is considering even tougher moves, including an oil blockade, a step former U.S. officials say would actually cripple Venezuela's already fragile economy. Now, Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and despite years of mismanagement, oil remains its vital source of revenue. In fact, most of it goes to China through secretive networks of ghost tankers that turn off tracking systems and transfers cargo at sea to avoid detection. And with a major tanker now seized, a U.S. carrier nearby, and talk of even harsher measures, the region is bracing for what comes next. And now moving to the Middle East, where a sharp new front is opening in the long-running U.S.-Iran rivalry, and it's unfolding not in diplomacy, but in drone design. Tehran is openly mocking Washington after the Pentagon confirmed it's begun deploying a new class of attack drones that are quite literally inspired by Iran's own Shahed drones. Iran says the United States has been forced to copy the design after American defense researchers reverse engineered a captured Shahed and produced a U.S.-made equivalent. Tehran framed the U.S. deployment as a humiliating concession from a superpower that once dismissed Iranian drones as crude, low-tech weapons.
There is no greater honor than seeing self-proclaimed superpowers kneel before an Iranian drone and copy it.
Iran's reaction comes a week after the Pentagon confirmed that many of these new American drones, known as low-cost uncrewed combat attack systems, or LUCAS, are already in the Middle East, with more arriving soon. The LUCAS drone was developed after U.S. technicians dismantled and studied a captured Shahed 136. Its mission profile is nearly identical as well. A cheap, expendable strike drone that can be launched in large numbers, fly autonomously, and hit fixed targets with minimal guidance. Now, the goal is to expand the American supply of low-cost attack drones in a region where Iran and its proxies have used similar systems to maximum effect. Iran's program has had a global ripple effect as well, supplying the drone design to Moscow, where it's been mass-produced specifically for attacks in Ukraine. Iran insists its technology is defensive in nature, however, denying direct involvement in combat, even as its drones continue to show up in active war zones. Now, the United States, meanwhile, has sanctioned Iranian drone manufacturers repeatedly, yet the proliferation continues, reshaping battlefields through swarm tactics, deep strike attacks, and high-volume, low-budget attrition. Analysts say the U.S. move reflects a deeper shift. For years, American drone warfare has relied on large, sophisticated platforms like the Reaper. But as Iran pioneered cheap, expendable systems, it forced global militaries to reconsider what wins modern air warfare. Not an expensive drone, but a dozen cheap ones. Either way, the next phase of the U.S.-Iran competition may well be fought by flying machines built to be lost. President Trump's latest rally in Pennsylvania was supposed to be about the economy. Instead, it turned into another spectacle centered on his press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt. The president praised her beautiful face and machine gun lips, drawing loud cheers in the audience, but louder criticisms online. Social media users slammed the remarks as creepy, gross, and wildly inappropriate for a boss speaking about a 28-year-old subordinate. But it wasn't a one-off. In fact, President Trump has repeated similar comments for months, from Air Force One to friendly TV interviews, and critics say the pattern goes all the way back to years from his remarks about his own daughters, Ivanka and Tiffany. Here's our story with more.
Donald Trump did it again. A rally intended to focus on the economy quickly went off track when the president singled out his 28-year-old press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. He praised her so-called beautiful face and lips that don't stop. He said it softly at first, and then louder. Pop, 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 like a little machine gun, he gushed, and the crowd roared.
We even brought our superstar today, Caroline. Stand up, Caroline. Isn't she great? Is Caroline great? You know, when she goes on television, Fox, they dominate. They dominate when she gets up there with that beautiful face and those lips that don't stop, up, like a little machine gun.
But online, the moment crashed hard. Critics recoiled instantly. One user on X asked, "Who says shit like that about a female who works for him?" Another wrote, "Fairly weird thing to say about your employee." A third user just said one word, "disgusting." Others joked that someone should come get grandpa because he was getting creepy. But this isn't new. Trump has praised Levitt's looks for months. He did it on Air Force One in October. He did it on Newsmax in August. He did it so often that machine gun lips became a catchphrase. But then critics zoomed out. This pattern did not start with Levitt. It stretches back decades and into Trump's own family. The first known moment surfaced in 1997. Trump tuned into Miss Universe while watching 16-year-old Ivanka, his daughter, host Miss Teen USA. He asked, "Don't you think my daughter is hot?" It stunned everyone, and the comments continued for years. Then, on the Howard Stern show, he praised Ivanka's body. He agreed when Stern called her a piece of ass. He talked about her figure, and he talked about her voluptuous looks. He even engaged in a conversation about breast implants instead of shutting it down. Then came another moment. On The View in 2006, he joked that if Ivanka were not my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. And then there was Tiffany. In a 1994 interview on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Trump praised the infant's legs. He gestured towards his chest and he said they didn't know if she had this part yet. And then he added, "Only time will tell." Marla Maples laughed, but the internet later did not. Viewers called the resurfaced clip creepy, chilling, and not normal. There was more. On the Wendy Williams show, Trump joked that the thing he had most in common with Ivanka, his daughter, was sex. He backtracked quickly, but the host still winced. She compared the moment to Hulk Hogan creepy. For years, Ivanka defended him. She said he wasn't a groper. She insisted that he respected women. But the archive just kept growing. Now, after another rally and another round of comments, a familiar question is back. If this is how Trump speaks in public, what's still hiding in the stories that haven't resurfaced yet?
And finally, this holiday season, even the world's biggest brands learned that AI can't always bottle Christmas magic. Coca-Cola and McDonald's rolled out ambitious AI ads only to be met with glitches, odd visuals, and a wave of online mockery. A reminder that when it comes to holiday cheer, not even global giants can automate the real thing. Here's our final story with more.
Artificial intelligence has officially entered its festive era. It's already written songs, designed outfits, planned holidays, and ruined several exams. So naturally, its next stop is Christmas. And judging by recent corporate experiments, the machines may be here to roast more than just chestnuts on an open fire. The latest contender in the AI versus Christmas showdown? McDonald's Netherlands, which quietly pulled an AI-generated holiday advert after it received more online mockery than a burnt Christmas pudding. The 45-second spot, titled "The Most Terrible Time of the Year," stitched together AI-generated clips of festive chaos. Santa stuck in traffic, a Dutch cyclist skidding through snow with gifts, and general Yuletide mayhem. The message was simple. avoid Christmas altogether by hiding inside a McDonald's until January. Instead of sending customers running for a McChicken, the ad sent them sprinting to social media, and absolutely no one held back. One viewer crowned it the most awful advert of the year, while another took issue with McDonald's labeling Christmas the most terrible time of the year. Some responses were outright furious. One user blasted the spot as anti-Christmas and anti-American. Another dismissed it simply as pure slop. Several accused the brand of trying to destroy the reason for the season and robbing joy from people. By December 9th, McDonald's Netherlands deleted the video and issued a statement to a publication saying the moment served as an important learning in its mission to explore the effective use of AI. And McDonald's isn't alone in discovering that AI and Christmas don't always mix well. Coca-Cola, a brand practically synonymous with wholesome holiday advertising, is also facing backlash for its latest AI-generated Christmas campaign. For 2025, the company released 2 more AI ads featuring wide-eyed, overly shiny animated animals greeting the arrival of the iconic Coca-Cola trucks. But viewers quickly noticed something off. In the AI remake of the classic 1995 Holidays Are Coming advert, the trucks, well, don't stay the same. They subtly change shape as they glide through the snow, gaining and losing wheels like a festive transformer having an identity crisis. Users were also furious after the company proudly revealed that the ad was made with even fewer people. One user summed up the mood perfectly. Flexing that you put even more people out of a job is crazy. Another mourned the good old days, writing, "I cry and weep for the 90s Coca-Cola Christmas adverts." A third piled on, calling it a 2025 AI slop cheap Coca-Cola commercial, and reminding the brand that it will never match the festively warm and comforting magic of its 1990s holiday classics. And then came the existential critique. Are we supposed to be surprised that the corporation doesn't actually care about the art form? They were never a valuable part of the art scene to begin with. This isn't Coke's first AI mishap. In 2024, its AI-generated Christmas campaign was widely mocked. Hardly the magical, heartwarming aesthetic the brand is famous for. So yes, AI may be everywhere, in your apps, your workplace, your shopping basket, your playlists. But when it comes to Christmas, the internet has spoken. Humans may not always get everything right, but at least our trucks don't grow extra tires between scenes.
That's going to do it for us today. And from all of us here at Firstpost America, we certainly thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.